Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Hello and welcome to Strategic Frontlines and Gunner Shot. This broadcast is going direct on two channels to each one of you. Those who join us on this New Year day, a Happy New Year to all of you, and those who will see it later, also a Happy New Year to each one of you. With that, we thought let us begin the new year with a bang, with a new idea again, out of the box idea, which was somewhere generated by Shankar during an in-house discussion, and we thought why not take it to the public so that we get some input, some comments. So with that in view, what I will do is that first of all, a very warm welcome to Shankar sir. A happy new year to you.
Thanks a lot, Dushyant. A happy new year to you, Klaus team, and everyone, and also a happy new year to everyone who's joining in. I echo what General Dushyant said. We wanted to start New Year with a new idea rather than doing the old things. We know that Iran is burning today. Maybe sometime later in the day we'll talk of it, right? But Iran can wait. India has to come first. In India, Indian army has to come first for us, both of us.
Absolutely.
And like he said, over to you, back to you, Dushyant. Take it forward.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is that we're going to discuss an idea which was thrown up during our internal discussion on training for the Indian Army, and therein we realized that technology was a major factor which will dictate both training, operations, and the results ultimately what we are going to get. So, if that be so, we have been talking about Atmanirbharta, and in that we have been talking about innovations. So we thought, he thought that, well, where is the technology potential existing today in the country? And then when we looked around, we found that it is the Gen Z which is absolutely embedded in technology. And here we oldies are thinking of doing X, doing Y, doing Z. So why not take the problem down to them and then seek solutions? So one is the civilian environment, which we are already tapping, which we are already doing a lot, and we are getting definite results. But who will be the best in this? And we realized recruitment base and the commissioning base is from this very particular social group. So when they are coming into the army, or for that matter any armed forces wing, they are getting along with them a huge amount of technological proficiency. So therefore I think they are the right people to actually think about innovation, actually think about uh, finding solutions, and thereafter translating it into a workable, operational, and tactical device equipment system which will benefit us ultimately in actually seeking victory or finding victory. In fact, all that problem about training, etc., will disappear, because it is these guys who are actually developing it. So therefore, they would be easily able to proliferate it, write the documents required for a training manual, TTPs, etc., what we call in the army, which I think we don't need to deliberate about, because it's not that relevant in a open environment. So with that, what I will do is I'll briefly cover few slides, and then I'll invite General Shankar to give his views. So we thought, why not go in for a homegrown startup? So why don't we look inwards? So this is the whole idea, the concept of the idea. So why do we move this idea? Who understands the problem most? Obviously, it doesn't require rocket science to answer this question. It is the user, because he is actually operating on the ground, so he knows where he's getting struck. So if he's getting struck, the problem definition, which has been a problem in all startups and all R&D issues, will be best defined by this person. And this person comes under a big entity which we have forgotten. I consider him greater than the chief of army staff, or the chief of air staff, or the chief of naval staff, and that is the commanding officer. We have lost sight of the fact that there used to be a time when the commanding officer was the kingpin of victory, a difference between victory and a defeat. In fact, in our days, we used to call that, okay, my ultimate ambition is to become a commanding officer. Thereafter, whatever I get is a bonus. I think if that is the kind of culture which we regenerate again in our armed forces, I'm sure it is there, but it needs to be strengthened. Then you have who can come up with innovative solutions. Maximum stakes are with the stakeholder who's fighting on the ground, and the sanchalak or the conductor of that battle is the commanding officer and his soldiers and his officers. So who can actually work upon it and work sincerely? Those who are accountable to give results in battle, those who can absorb it fastest, and those who can test, validate, and proliferate the systems fastest. I think they're all residing down below. None of them are residing on top with the deputy chiefs and the vice chiefs and the corps commanders. We've all gone through that, and we realize that we can only pass orders, we can motivate them, but they are the ones who can motivate themselves and do the work accordingly. Who can develop it? A collaborative team. Here, I would like to little elaborate upon. It has to be people with a logical and an innovative thought process. Now, if you look at very carefully, the Agniveers, what I have been given to understand is that the Agniveers are actually the recruitment is mostly science based now. So most of these guys are actually, I can say, very quick to adapt to technology. Look at the officers cadre NDA. Even if he's an arts stream student in the 12th standard, he has to pass a damn question paper called mathematics, and that mathematics question paper is so difficult that ultimately if he has passed that, that means he has that caliber to actually find solutions, find innovation. And if you look at the logical test, the IQ test, I think we have one of the most finest IQ tests going around in the world today. If I were to say without hesitation, if there is one selection process possibly which can be counted as something which can produce results, it is the Indian Army selection process. But where it gets, hampered is the fact that once he is inducted, that culture, that innovative mind, the thinking mind of that youngster goes fat. So we need to do some tweaking of our internal induction, and then thereafter subsequent growth in the that I will request Jal Shankar to actually elaborate on, because this is what he had come up during that particular point in time when we were having the discussion internally. And of course, for this, we require a collaborative team. I'm not saying that everything can be done by the user, but if he has a linkage, if the CEO can have a linkage with an academic institution, with a DRDO or defense R&D organization, it will be a closer knit family which will be working over time. And these models are existing. If you go to US, I was there during this period when Afghanistan war was going on. There was a constant touch between the scientist, the user who was the major saab or captain saab, who when firing a tank realized that he was having some problem, he would immediately rush back to US from Afghanistan and say, hey, this is the problem which I am facing and I want a solution. 6 months pronto, the solution is delivered, and that particular equipment goes for a manufacturer or whatever it is, and there you have it. They overcome that problem and get along with it. So that kind of a model, I'm referring to the sniper model, where the snipers were getting killed of the US Army, and they realized that, why can't we catch the Taliban snipers? So these are the things which the people on the ground face it, and they will be the ones who can drive the process. Okay, and in this process the scientist also goes to that spot there. He's with him. He says, okay, what is the problem on the ground? He's seen it in the laboratory, but when he goes to the ground, he realizes the conditions which are totally different from a laboratory condition. Large scale production, of course, here you will have to bank upon the industry, but I'm sure that is not a major hassle. India has now the necessary industry to actually come up with solutions where there is a requirement of going abroad for import, etc., for a particular chip, a particular part, that we can still go ahead. And finally, who are the best to do? I have already elaborated upon this. Why do we say so? Technology culture resides at the lower levels the maximum due to revolution in the use of technology in the recruitment base. Agniveer is becoming more and more science based induction, although we have laid down separate qrs like Agniveer technical and Agniveer non technical. But let me tell you, Agniveer non technicals are also equally. In fact, the numbers which came were in terms of 1 lakh or something per year, out of which roughly about 60 to 70,000 are in that zone of high technology awareness. NDIMA I have already covered. What we need to do is change the culture and provide the resources with minimum restrictions to the foundation and the victory giver of the army, the commanding officer. With this, sir, I hand over the platform to you, and and this is basically the last 2 points which are the stumbling block in my mind, which may actually lead to some kind of a dampener to this idea of tech startups in the hands of the commanding officer. So over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, General Dushyant. I think what you said is, I mean, let me say at the outset, I subscribe to it 1000%. And
Thank
this
you, sir.
video is just not for the people who are watching it, but the people who will watch it hereafter. And I do hope a lot of people within the army watch it. I think the first point which we need to understand, we have to give power to the commanding officer. You have to empower the commanding officer to fight the battle the way he wants. That is something which I think, which you rightly said, over a period of time we have taken away from them. And why have we taken it away? This is the paradox which we are facing. We call it the tech paradox. I'll break it up and I'll put what General Dushan said in different formats and words. The battlefield is technologized. There's no doubt. Ukraine has shown it. Israel-Iran war has shown. What's happening in Taiwan? What's happening in South China Sea? What's happening wherever? Even in our own case, Op Sindoor, there's a tech battle. Tech element in battle has gone up. Huge. Okay. Tech is swamping the battlefield. When you're looking at major platforms with a lot of new technology, it's okay to be top driven. But what has Ukraine proven to us? It is the small unit tech, Sastha and Thikau. That's what we said, Sastha and Thikau, which is more important. And let me tell you my experience. Last year, I gave a question paper to my students in IIT, MA, PhD students, and MS students. I said, list out what are the small and cheap technologies which were used in Ukraine and, Gaza and all, which helped make the difference to units. You'll be surprised at the kind of technology which came out. They said apps, small UAVs, small, monitoring devices, small things. These are small. That's why the Sastha and Tikau approach. These small things can't be top driven. They can't be universalized. They have to be made there. And in Ukraine, we've seen units making drones on their own, flying them, repairing them, and using them. Right? The very concept of those drones which had a fiber optic link behind, which we call it with fancy names, could see what is happening and hit, and they're proof against, electronic warfare and all that. All born out of the battlefield. By whom? By units, unit commanders, recruits at the unit. So that is the important thing. Right. And then I'll go back, 5 years back when there was AI coming in, all these new things were coming in, additive manufacturing, propulsion, all these technologies were coming in. I remember sitting in the auditorium of Manekshaw Hall in a conference, and there were 1,000+ people in the audience that day. And someone asked, which is the best way to get all this into the army? Unanimously, all those people said startups. Right? So We've struggled with startups for the past 5 years and we have not made headway. Why have we not made headway? Because the people who are dealing, we have the best startups in IIT, but hardly anyone contributes to defense. Why? So this is a problem which has been eating my mind. Then I realized that the guys who are searching for technology are in army headquarters, old people like General Dushyant and I, and maybe a little younger by about 5, 6, 7 years, but they're old. They don't know technology. They can't handle technology. They can give policy direction, help, PAO, all that, and give orders and all that. They can give good policies. They can drive technology into major systems, not those minor small systems, cheap technologies, Sastha and Thikau technologies, which are required in battle for day-to-day functioning. So this is a paradox. So our entire lot of people who have to fight with the technology are not in the loop. How do you make this happen? So then again, I kept scratching my mind as to how. I must give you why I came to this story. And what General Dushan said, the QR are at the bottom and they never come up. And the weapon systems are not made as per the QRs which people want. And in this case, the technology evaporation also is very fast. The technology comes and goes. Before you can make a QR, the technology is swamped out. So you have to make it a very fast reaction process. So it is here I said, look, we are not placing enough faith in our men. We are not placing enough faith in our officers. And most importantly, the commanding officer. Right. So I went back, 84. I'm going to tell a story from here on. 1984, the Bofors gun came to India. The Bofors was the most advanced gun of that time. It was maybe 1 or 2 generations ahead of the technologies which resided in India at that time. Right. And we felt, look, can our men handle it? This is so technologically complex. Initially, for the first 1 month, only officers in School of Artillery used to touch that gun. No one else had the, guts to touch that gun, or no one else had hesitance. But after that, people started using. We started running courses. People started using, and our men took to technology like duck to water. And mind you, at that time, the men were not as competent as today's men in terms of technology. But those guys who, whether they were Marathas, they were Sikhs, they're South Indians, they're, whoever, right? They could come and do whatever was required to operate that gun. And they've proven it in Kargil. The way they handled this piece of equipment defeated Pakistan. It's a national testimony. That's great. So what if, they've mastered the technology, can they make it into something? Well, that also came. In, around 2010, we were making the Dhanush. Dhanush was based on the, transfer of technology papers which we got and designs we got from the Bofors. So when we were designing it, many things we couldn't make headway. I'll be very honest. It was very difficult to understand those designs. Anyway, in the process, the guy who was designing the Bofors, the Dhanush, said, "Sir, can you give us a detachment of, Bofors people who'll help us with all that?" So we gave them a gun also, old gun, a Bofors gun which was lying somewhere, whose barrel had burst. But other systems were working. We gave to the people who were designing, and we gave one detachment who was proficient in handling Bofors. Believe you me, after that, the building of Dhanush was at top speed. Because these guys knew exactly. You show them a design and they'll tell you how it functions. Because they had handled the equipment. They knew the intricacies of the equipment. And then when someone explained to them the design, they could say, look, this is it. And then the design, production, build-up of the Dhanush went at top speed. In a matter of 1-2 years, we could field the first gun for trials. What happened later is a different story. So our men have it in them. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. Now, so why are we not using this capability? We are not using this capability of our men or commanding officers and everyone because there's a disconnect at this point of time. Right. So we have to bridge this disconnect, right? The capacity lies at the bottom. Like they say, the wealth lies at the bottom of the heap. And the strength of the Indian Army is the units, not formations, not headquarters. Men. Okay. You need to transfer things there. I'll give you one more example. This was when I was a DGRT. I went to a unit in Sikkim. There was a young guy, young officer who had just joined, the unit. He had joined about 6 months back. Electronics engineer. He made a small INS system based on MEMS technology to lay the gun and orient the gun and make the gun lay automatically and fire automatically. And wherever the gun went, it could record where it is going and orient itself. It's like an INS system, very small. And that was for a IFG, one of IM IFG, which means with no effort, he had modernized the system. Here comes the problem. I saw it. I loved it. With all my good intent, I called him to Delhi, that youngster, and I told him, give the thing. I said, I sent him all over the countryside. Okay, give him, I said, unlimited money, everything. And very soon, went, he went to all the scientists, he went to all people, and he got confused and he couldn't produce anything. It became a failure. Later, I was thinking, why did it fail? I felt today, it failed because I interfered. I interfered in that young mind, that uninhibited mind. Today, I feel if I had given that fellow, say, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, which he could have raised from wherever, and said, you produce a battery of guns which are completely automated and do, he would have done it. But I corrupted his mind by pulling him up. I didn't allow that innovation to grow. Okay, so that's a major disconnect. And we have to bridge that. How do you bridge that? Empower that guy at the bottom. I'll give you another example. Recently, 1 year back, someone came, a senior officer came to IIT and said, we want a drone which can be taken on the palm of a hand, right? And which is capable and all. So 3 months back, when the chief of army staff came to IIT, we gave him an AI-powered drone which could fit in the palm of his hand. Okay? It works. You talk to it in English, it will reply to you in Portuguese if you want, or in Hindi. It doesn't matter. And it has got some fundamental characteristics. It can do surveillance and all that. It can be flown in a room. Beautiful for small ops, insertion ops and things like that. Small level surveillance. Something. Told it to the chief. So far, I don't know what's the outcome, whether the army wants it or not. Why? Disconnect. The disconnect is because the chief of army staff is the highest authority, but he's disconnected with the people on ground. I'm very sure if the guys on ground see it, they'll improve on it. So there's a requirement to connect. And this was developed by a young chap, a young PhD student in IIT. If this young PhD student in IIT can connect up with that young officer on ground or that para SF or that special forces team on ground, they'll find how to use this AI powered drone better. And they'll drive it. Give them money. It's not very costly. Give them money. They will make it happen. Right. So I thought that's why, a lot of this technology has to be bottom driven. It has to be chief. It has to be effective. Right. And it has to make the units at the bottom win wars for us. This is the lesson from Ukraine. This is my own experience. This is practical. So that is why we both, General Dushyant and I, we were involved in a study for inducting technology into the armed forces and all that. And we were having a discussion in the final presentation when this idea came. So what do we do? So idea then is we need to empower that commanding officer. If you don't have startups in the army, every unit from my side is a startup. Make him a startup. Okay, you feel, but that's the best way. Give money to that unit. Let that chap waste money. It doesn't matter. Let him dabble with technology and let him come up with a solution which is peculiar to his requirement. It could be as simple as a heater for high altitude. It could be as simple as getting energy in high altitude. Why energy in high altitude? Battlefield mein you need energy. You need energy to power your systems. You need energy to heat. You need energy everywhere. It could be very small things. These small things are not, we don't grip our mind, at a higher level. So is there a case for us to do this? This is what I thought we must discuss on this new year, because the more we empower our men, more we empower our commanding officers, the better it is. So how do we do that? And that's the point which we're going to discuss today. So Dushyant, I've said my thing. Let's take it forward. Let's see what are the choices we have. How do we go about it?
Okay, so we are, thank you, sir, and I think you put the whole idea in the right perspective. The whole process has to begin with this cultural change, is what I would like to highlight. And in this case, besides the personal examples which you have quoted, and I have similar personal experiences of mine where youngsters came up with the solutions. I didn't even tell them. For example, a very simple thing, we laid down the border fencing. We were very happy. Yeah, the border fencing has come up, infiltration will stop. So for about 2 months or so, the infiltration was relatively down. And suddenly we found that the people have again started crossing. They have beaten the
Yeah.
fence in many ways, and human mind has no end to innovations. One fine day, one of the youngsters, I was visiting, so I saw one of the youngsters came up with a laptop in his hand, and he said, "Sir, I have developed a system where I can integrate all my sensors into one place, which will act as my company commander's command post, where I can then move, sidestep, adjust people in real time if I notice something happening in areas which are in the gap, or which are where our troops are not there." And believe you me, suddenly from that area, the infiltration stopped, because they realized that wherever these guys were trying to infiltrate, there would suddenly be someone reaching there even before they could do all their antiques of crossing the fence through either under passage or through trees, or there are a number of ways and means to circumvent. No obstacle is non-penetrable. Every
Yeah.
obstacle, right from Second World War today, we don't get that feeling ki okay, this obstacle cannot be circumvented. It can be circumvented. So this is one example. Similarly, there were many others, connecting a old legacy VHF system directly to the brigade commander. I was that time brigade commander, and telling me that, "Sir, we are in this place, and what we want to do, we want some resources." So and one could move the neighboring formation in a real time much faster. Now, of course, you have got bigger systems, etc. But had we tapped it in 2006, 2007, 2008, when these ideas were just germinating, there would have been phenomenal change by now. That has not happened. So what I feel is cultural change has to be the first step, which we need to actually imbibe, or get it back into the system. And for that, if there is a need to produce a document, do produce a document, devolve the powers. See the Ukrainian examples. They have given finances to the commanding officers and below, even company
Yeah.
commanders. They are themselves procuring the technology. They're not going back to the brigade commander or some higher up authority for procuring something which he wants immediately. He has to create a Ola system of a network to get the firepower on the enemy within 2 minutes. He has done that. He's not gone to some place, and he's bought few mobiles. He has bought few uh, kind of sensors, etc. He gives it to his infantryman. Wherever he's going, he just passes on the location. Like you call for a OVA, he call for a Ola or Uber transport. He calls for a fire, and the gunner immediately responds. He doesn't even have to do any correction. It's a eight-figure grid reference which is giving straight from the satellite. So these are the things which came up not from Zelensky. I'm sorry, they came up from these company commanders. So, I personally feel that that old culture of making the commanding officer as the real hero of the today's war will serve a lot of purpose. Essentially, it will also add to the problem which we are facing, like you said, evaporation of technology. The guy, the new Agniveer who's coming, he's coming with the latest, on his hand or on his pump top. Not the man in the uniform like me who is there sitting there on top. I will say, yeah, बच्चा इसको ऐसा करो, you try type it and get it back to me, I will see it. We are puzzled. I think the ideas are germinating in numbers which we can't even imagine. So that is the second issue which I feel is that if need be, give the written authority for commanding officers that every year you will be getting this much amount. If you are able to do something innovative, do it. Otherwise, next year we will again replenish that particular fund to him. Moment he has what do you require for innovation, sir? You require for innovation somebody who understands the problem, somebody who has the logic to take it forward and find a solution, and somebody who has the resources to do it. Now, if the commanding officer doesn't have the resources for this fund, we give him a lot of fund, but those funds are all, watertight
Other things, yeah.
compartment. You can do it only on this, or you can do it only on paper, pencils, etc., etc. I am saying just diversify your one simple fund called ACG into something called AIG, Army Innovation, or Army Innovation Grant. Simple. Give an Army Innovation Grant. That would be the second step, which I would recommend would go forward as far as this, empowering the commanding officer is concerned. Third thing, just by giving permission for the commanding officer to float a note, simple note, that I have developed this thing. I wish to interact with XYZ person who is there in the IIT or who is there in DRDO, and develop this system further, make it more, how do you say? There was a word used by somebody, safe. That means,
Mhm.
safe for use by the army, make it ruggedized, etc. So, I mean, he should be allowed to go, okay, go, fine. Not that it goes right up to army headquarters for sanctions here. This guy should be allowed to move. He knows that if he is missing from the spot, what kind of a problem the unit might face, or what kind of a trouble the unit might face. So he will get his 2IC or whosoever is there to strengthen the operational requirement of that particular time. Move that officer there directly, and then that officer and the team which I was talking about would be collaborating with each other without any kind of a, acha uska kya hua. Some corps commander will start asking, what have you done about it. Leave it here. If he is able to develop it, fine, you develop it. And the last thing which I want is that, like the idea which you give, and this idea suddenly struck me from the fact that you said that there was a guy who was the, I think, MTech student who developed a system. Why should you not make him a TA officer? Make a TA technical. The era is changing. We can't have TA doing guard duties. Sorry. I think we are still stuck in our old thought processes. Have the DSC for that. Have a TA technical thriving organization. You pick up a guy, make him a major, make him a lieutenant colonel. He's there for whatever duration that particular project is there. Thereafter he goes by.
Goes
Army
on.
has
That's
started.
it.
Army has started it, but that's one odd officer here and there. No, have a full-fledged kind of a TA unit which will be handling this thing. Guys in the beard, guys with the legs on the table, they will go there. They'll do the job in their own way. I have Govind who is there in this particular podcast handling our back end. This guy, if you see him, you will say, "कि यार ये तो क्या करेगा?" But he does everything. So my point is, solutions. These are the three, four things which I thought would actually bring transformation into a technological benchmark of the Indian Armed Forces. I mean, there are many more
Yeah,
ideas, but off the cuff, I thought these would be something. The Americans have done that. Palantir, they made him a lieutenant colonel. How he's been told to resolve all the problems. So these are ideas I think which we should carry forward and make it into a formalized directives. Unless
yeah,
you give those directives,
I
yes, sir.
completely agree with you. There's no way but to think differently. The
Absolutely,
old way, the current system is outdated. Let me tell you,
absolutely,
the current system we are following in the army is outdated. We will
absolutely.
not win a technology battle tomorrow if we are not, if that technology doesn't come up from units. That adoption of that technology has to be down below. On that, I have no doubt. Yeah, major systems, major technologies have to
I
be
think
top
go ahead.
driven. Yeah,
Absolutely,
we should, but need to empower. Let me tell you, I think the bulk payoff in this will be with legacy systems.
yes,
Because if you can modernize legacy systems through small innovations, right? Even if there is a delay in procurement of modern systems, major systems, everything, it doesn't matter. You're constantly upgrading your items. In any case, then you not only upgrading your items, you're extending the life of those items at the bottom. And then you're getting a handle on those technologies, and you'll find a technology revolution coming up from the bottom rather than trying to drive it from the top. What you said is very interesting. And in fact, I must tell you, you know, I go every 6 months to OTA for whenever artillery officers are commissioned. In fact, every year, everyone gets commissioned for the commissioning of artillery officers. We have a dinner and I interact with them and all that, as they're welcoming them into artillery. But the kind of talent I see coming and their aspirations and what their experience. There was a girl in artillery who's come, she was a beauty queen.
no.
Okay. Oh, yeah. She was a beauty queen. She's done a lot of things. And she comes into artillery. See the motivation of that young girl and the
Absolutely,
young people, right? There was a guy who did part of his studies abroad, came back, got into a high paying job, quit and got into artillery. I mean, got into the army and he was allotted artillery. So the talent is at the bottom. We went recently to Jaisalmer, interacted with a few Agniveers, and I found them tremendously talented, right? It's not that the Agniveer system is bad. That's a different story. The structure of the Agniveer system is bad, but the Agniveers are superb. That's the
yeah.
point. So I think we need to tap this, especially with legacy systems. Now, there's a disconnect because those guys are sitting in unit somewhere, right? They might have ideas, but to take it forward, they need some academic background, they need some industry. That industry is lying in peace stations in big areas and all that. How do you make that connect? And here comes the thing. We already have that connect in the form of Agnishodhan, the model. Agnishodhan, IIT.
Just
The
goes there.
chief of army staff, yeah, he came there. You were also there that day when the
Yeah, I know.
Agnishodh was inaugurated. What is that Agnishodh? It's the platform. It's an army unit sitting in IIT Madras. Now,
Just go
if
there.
just go there and tell him, look, this is my problem. I want you to scout around. Let me know who will help me in this. Let me know which are the technologies. Can I meet a few professors? Yeah, wo. Let that commanding officer move up and down. It doesn't matter. Create Agnishodhs all over the country, about 6, 7 of them, right? And let them, and you'll see the difference. And our officers, at least 50 to 60 officers every year are doing MTech. Put those fellows on the job all over to get technology in. So I think there's a whole lot of things which you said we can do, cultural change. And I think we need to brainstorm this. Maybe we can have a discussion with the army should
More.
start and
Yeah.
a discussion. And this discussion shouldn't happen in Manekshaw Center and in Delhi. It should happen in formations and units, in a unit, not even in a formation. Let that guy
Absolutely.
at the commanding officer and that young officer come and give a presentation. Sir, this is my idea. I want to do this because I want to improve my unit. He might be wanting to improve, like I said, living in high altitude is difficult. Can you have light there? Can you have electricity there? Can you have small things? Can you have heating systems there? Can you have road signs so that you avoid accidents? Can you do maintenance routines better through software? Can you have small sensors and expose them to everything? Small
Absolutely.
things. I'm not looking at big things at all. Integrators. After all, these days the kind of Ola kind of a thing you can always do. If you can integrate firepower, you can integrate surveillance, you can integrate everything. And this is done in the Ukraine war. The models exist. It's not something new. It's a cultural change. Then I think there is a requirement of funding that guy at the bottom. Give him a basic fund. You tell him, okay, every year a unit gets 10 lakhs for innovation. Okay, if you can innovate everything, but at the end of the year, tell us what you have innovated so that it can be universally applied. Even if it doesn't innovate, it doesn't matter. I mean, the way I look at it, the money will go only to the unit. People that commanding officer will spend on his people. It's okay. Even if it's for welfare, it's okay. But there will be at least, the way I look at it, 20 to 25% people who will innovate. And if that innovation comes up, get it up. Have an innovation competition. You're giving them fund, have a competition. What have they innovated? Right? Have it at formation level, have it at dev level. Have workshops with startups, other startups. Invite startups and nest these startups in units. If there's a startup which is, say, making a robotic arm or something like that, nest it in a unit. Let that fellow, that startup know, okay, I want to try out my robotic arm. I can go to, say, 15 Dogra, which is today in, Siachen. I will try this in those conditions. Do that connect, the bottom connect which is required. Because that guy who's doing a startup in Bangalore, who has got no outlook or idea of the army, has got the wherewithal and things to do. And the guy there knows how to receive it. Connect them up. Many will fail. But we are looking at, out of 100 failures, if I get one success, I am through.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
And why I'm telling, just think, and this is for all formation commanders. This message is not only because I'm sure this will get circulated to all formation commanders. We have over, say, what, 5,000 units in the army. If out of 5,000 units, even if I get 1% success, 1% only, you're looking at 50. If I get
Absolutely.
50 innovations, 50 successes in a year, in a no time, we will be a different army altogether. Our lethality will increase. I can assure you, our lethality will increase. Right? I think we need to take this up in a big way, and you can have innovation hubs at formation headquarters, and those innovation hubs need not move. For example, say the Black Cat division, which is in Sikkim, can have an innovation hub where everything is available. Anyone can come
Correct.
and start working there and putting up
Correct.
things there and innovate as per the environment out there, what is required in Sikkim. It could be as simple a thing as taking water from one level to another level because you have a small pump or a small pipe or a defreezing system. If you remember in Kailash, in the Kailash range of snow leopard, one of the biggest problem was how to take water up to the top of, and it used to get frozen and, small things. You give them ideas, give them technology, life will improve first at unit level and their lethality will improve. So I think there's a whole lot of scope to do it. I do hope This video of ours is seen by the army commanders and the chief because
Uh,
our
that is something very important, sir. And in fact, what I'm doing is based on this whole concept. This is just a embryonic start to the idea which we kind of cobbled
are going
up.
to champion.
Uh,
We're going to
yeah,
champion this idea, right?
yeah. So therefore, what we are doing is now we are making a paper also. I have nominated a brigadier in the Center for Land Warfare Studies who is going to make it into a proper proposal, send it to the people concerned with specific things like funds, like entity, like TAization of TA technology, things like that. So those ideas will be put into some kind of a doable action points and then shared thereafter. Let us see, we may have a larger panel discussion even on the YouTube so that people are able to see it on the ground, because now the policy has changed as far as the army is concerned. We have issued a policy where now serving people can also see, go on the social media, go and see such videos. They can't of course communicate, but they can always
Yeah, but they can
be
definitely see part of the
yeah,
part of
yeah,
live
and
sessions.
and they can thereafter approach cloth, which is a kind of a go between the open source and the closed source. So therefore there is a method in this particular process. We'll take it forward. If you allow, now we can take some questions.
Yeah, yeah, please, please,
Govind,
please, please.
Govind, would you like to, Govind, are you there?
No, it's okay. Take some questions. No,
Yes,
not an
yes,
issue.
I
Yeah, the
am
go on
there.
this one.
Yeah, so just pick up few questions which are of interest. I can see some people other than this. Yeah, Thailand and Cambodia war could have been ended by China due to sweet deal to stop the agony of Cambodian army soldiers, causing casualty due to misfiring of Chinese weapons and actual killed in the action. Well, this is not part of our topic today. If you'd like to throw some light, because this is one of your
No,
favorite.
no, no, I will put it this way. You
Yeah,
see, look at the second part.
that's right.
Stop the
That's why I
agony
said,
of Cambodian army soldier casualty due to misfiring of Chinese weapons. You see, one
yeah,
of the things which this system, which we are trying to say is, will stop the casualty rate because then you see, every weapon has a defect, whether we like it or not. And the best of the weapons will have a defect. The best
yeah,
of the
absolutely.
weapons will misbehave. But if you have a sophisticated technology system of detecting these weapons, maintaining the equipment well, putting things in well, all these won't happen. Of course, a basic flaw in design like Chinese weapons have, you can't do very little about it. But a good weapon system with technology incorporated will have, you can rectify and anticipate the defects, increase its life and all that. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
This question is actually in two parts, if I'm not wrong. We have developed cryogenic engines, but why haven't we developed fighter jet engines? The Navy is currently developing the most complex technologies. Uh, Look, this question is again something which is not related to this particular issue. Let me tell you, there are other factors as far as jet engines are concerned. It's a very, very complex and a very, very challenging technology. People have been trying. We have developed a Kaveri engine, which is very near to the main engine, and hopefully another 5 6 years down the line we should be able to create our own jet engines. I think wait and watch is this thing. As far as the Navy is concerned, they adopted this thing that we are talking about 40 50 years back, and that is why they are in a much greater success rate. Their design bureau was typically this. It was the Navy which was coming with the problem. It was the Navy which was now doing the connect between the academia, developers, and the manufacturers. So Navy, right from the beginning itself, has been doing this homegrown technology development kind of an initiative. So they are reaping the harvest of their hard work, and plus they are more platform oriented as far as the armed forces army is concerned. We have so many technologies, so many issues that it is very difficult for us to really focus on issues in that manner. So we can pick up one item, two items, three items in house. Most of it we have to depend upon the outside resources. And earlier the model itself was that there was a DRDO which was trying to do all these things for us. Now the more thought process has come in that yes, there is a need for a collaboration, there is a need for military civil fusion, and then only we will be able to go ahead, and which is happening now. So only thing is we are late starters, so we will be giving the results late. That's the only difference. But legacy system innovation has started. Let me tell you, we have started doing it. Op Sindoor, you saw a lot of legacy systems being innovated by our people in house. It didn't go to any DRDO, it didn't go to any kind of a technology institution. People did it on their own. Can you believe it? A Talibani
He
person,
doesn't.
he does it. He has no knowledge whatsoever of maths, science, physics, chemistry. You know what he did for a motor fire? It is very interesting, sir. You must listen to this. This came out in Chanakya Defense Dialogue with a photograph. With a photograph, this one of the speakers displayed this thing. He has used a laptop, iPad, to level his motor and give direction to it through the GPS into the laptop, and he's fired it without all those,
Yeah.
jing bang which we have as far as our motor fire is concerned. Of course, this is not a kind of a complete solution, but this is a jugaad which he did. I also call innovation as jugaad. Now, this whole idea can be carried forward, and all those legacy systems can be replaced by a single unit which can do these things on the motor. Motor will be just a tube then. Put it down, level it, give the direction, feed the GPS, and thereafter feed the GR, and thereafter it goes on the target. Bang! First round on the target, fire 3 round motor fire, and be out of it. So these things come up not by education. Also, there are a lot of people with mind. So let's see and see some transformational changes. I think that's what we look at.
He says,
This
why
you should
don't we
answer.
have local?
Centers of
Why
excellence.
don't we have local centers of excellence in each unit? They can go wild with stuff. I agree with you. I mean, it can't be in a unit. A unit can't have a center
Too
of
small.
excellence, but
Yeah.
too small. But at the div level, at the brigade level, definitely innovation hubs and centers of excellence. Right?
The-
Innovation hub is better, than a center of excellence. A center of excellence will give you in a particular field only. I would prefer, at unit level, especially see lot of things, lot of issues, lot of technology gets applied in a particular sector, particular terrain, particular configuration. So the technology which is applicable in that particular terrain configuration doesn't get applied, can't get applied elsewhere. So technology development to that area will come through innovation hub or I don't mind calling it even a center of excellence of that particular area,
yeah, I mean
which
that's
needs to
okay.
be done. It doesn't matter, right? But you need to have a platform to do that. That's the more important thing. The
It's the
second thing which
resources.
the army is the resources and the institutionalization of innovation is important, which we don't have today in the army. I'll be very honest. The second thing which out of this is that let the technologies which are manufactured or innovated at the bottom, they have to be displayed at the top, one level up, and keep filtering up so that the best of the technologies can go up at the army level and get displayed and institutionalized for the universalized for the entire army. That's a mechanism which we have to work out. I'm sure General Dushyant will look into this, and of course both of us will take this forward. Look, let me put it. Even this method of discussing it on a new year, the first kind of a podcast, is a out of box thinking.
Yeah.
We could have easily discussed the state of the world, but we are discussing the state of the army. And that's what we want to do. Yeah.
This will be the last question, sir. I think thereafter we can
Yeah.
later
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
So, besides the formalities, what he's saying, core engineering is not being preferred by Gen Z. Actually, this is a very good question. Not being preferred by Gen Z. Please advise how to bring out this change. Although not related directly to the military, but I think there is a there is this tendency of, uh, even Piyush Goyal had, the minister had raised this issue about low-end technologies being lapped by our people, and people are not really working onto the high-end core engineering tech, because that would be required for our, the bigger systems, the bigger development initiatives. Just a
Yeah,
word from you on this.
I, I completely agree with you. It is a cultural shift which we need to do at the bottom. Because I see it. A lot of people who study in IIT end up in IT, irrespective of the fact that they're chemical engineers or mechanical engineers. Why?
Absolutely.
Because they don't have a stream up. You have to create that upstream pull. And
Good.
can the army do anything about it? We can. There are a lot of places where we can give internships, we can give exposure to how core engineering is the requirement of the day. Core technologies are requirement of the day. If we can give them, if we can give the guy at the bottom, it's not as if people are not studying core engineering, because the seats for IT and software and all are limited. There's a whole lot of seats for others. They are being subscribed, but the channel after that is going towards softer options. So you need to create upstream opportunities for all these chaps, and you have to create it innovatively. And also you have to, this core engineering itself has to be modified. Their content has to be modernized in reality of what's happening in AI, what's happening in this thing. So if you can modernize core engineering, then you'll see the results coming out. It is, I think, ultimately how to make core engineering successful, how to give a dream to that young man to build something, young man, young girl, I mean, both, how to build something and achieve something. I think that is not being framed in our educational institutions. I mean,
Yes.
I'll give you my own experience. We've developed this ramjet projectile. We went and fired it in, uh, the Pokhran field firing ranges, and we've achieved a fair degree of success. Some more steps are there, we'll do it. I've seen guys who, when we started, I didn't have one little fellow also to help us. There was one student, it was one professor, one student, and I who started this process. Today, I have a team of about 8 to 10 PhD students who are working on the project. I have about 6 to 7 companies working on this project. It has created a mass of its own. And all these guys who are associated are specializing in one particular field. I'm sure when they get out of this place from IIT and when they go wherever they have to go, they'll be specialists in the field in core engineering. Right? I think we need to do that. Keep this thing. And that is where Army will come in useful. I mean, just think of an engineer who is good at environmental studies. He goes and does core engineering in high altitude. He's a specialist after that. He'll go up in life as a specialist, or he does it in deserts, wherever. So I think there is a lot of thing which we can do, and I hope also that this endeavor of us leads us to there. That's the next point. This is the last point I wanted to put across.
And so I fully agree with you. People had asked the question about jet engines. One of the major problems in the jet engine is the metallurgy. So metallurgy is something which is a core engineering subject, and if we don't lay adequate focus, we will get into this kind of a
And let
situation.
me give you the paradox here. You go to Brihadishwara temple,
Hmm. Yeah.
in Tanjavur. Okay. The kind of metallurgy which is required, which is there in the temple, is something which is till date people don't know what is there. Okay. This core engineering ancient wisdom is there. There's a river called Tamarapurni in Tamil Nadu, which is a tributary of Kaveri. Along that river, there is copper deposits, historic. As a result, in along that river, there are people who are experts in copper technology, and this is core engineering and all that. But what knowledge they have has not been transferred into our engineering colleges. So there is a lot of things which are missing links in our system. I do hope all these efforts which we are making starts bridging these issues. I mean, I can talk the whole day about metallurgy and what it is, but that we'll talk of it another day.
Okay, sir, I think we have come to the end of our discussions today. It was a very fruitful discussion. We were able to motivate one of the listeners or the audience who said, "I am doing core PhD in engineering, and I will develop a jet engine." I think that
Oh, very
spirit
good.
is what you, the spirit is. Can you bring that up, Govind? It's just, I mean, I couldn't find it now. Let me just see. Yeah, this one. So I think if we have been able to motivate one person to say this thing, the whole this is the start of a change of a culture. That is very important. That enthusiasm has to come first, and this enthusiasm should not be allowed to die. That is the second important issue, which unfortunately happens in the armed forces because of our some very hard processes which we apply on everyone across the board, whether he is into department A, department B, or service A or service B. Because of that, I think we reduce every one of them to one single level, and which results in their motivation evaporating very fast. So, with that, sir, thank you very much, and Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and Happy New Year to each one who is listening here and each one who will listen to this podcast in the future. Sir. Jai Hind, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, and Jai Hind, and Happy New Year to everyone. Join us back in the evening at 8 o'clock on Ganeshot and Klaus. We're going to discuss something very interesting, both General Dushyant and I, along with the third angle of our triangle, that is General Rajiv Narayanan, anchored by Mr. Sri Iyer. Till evening,
Yes.
thank you, good evening, and Jai Hind. Good morning, and Jai Hind to all of you.
Thank you, sir.